Yo, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys the official spoilers of Boruto's upcoming manga chapter of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 9, and it is official. Boruto versus Kawaki is going down, and those Kawaki stocks, they just took another beating. You guys heard me say before, I am gonna keep buying the stocks on Kawaki as they dip, but man, this one hurt to see because Kawaki, he isn't just getting exposed. He's being left out on the street like someone who just got a lick hit on him in the stash house and they got stripped naked and they got put out onto the corner. Like, this isn't just bad, it's embarrassing for Kawaki. Just like in the past, these leaks are coming to us via the official Naruto website. So just like with the last 4 manga chapters, we're getting information about the chapter that Shueisha wants you to know in order to get you excited. So I don't consider this a spoiler, similar to how they've been doing with Dragon Ball Super for the last 4 years, where Dragon Ball Super publishes the first 4 or 5 pages of the storyboard in order to hype fans up. As a reminder, the official chapter drops on the 18th on Viz Media's Shonen Jump app and Shueisha's Manga Plus app if you're outside of Japan. Both allow you to read the new chapters for free, so as always, support the official release. So in the new official spoiler, we have ourselves Boruto vs Kawaki kicking off in the chapter, and there's a decent amount that we can take away from the information we're being given. The first thing is the fact that Kawaki is once again getting embarrassed, and this might be the worst loss he's taken since Damon flexed on that boy by catching the chakra rods that Kawaki summons from his Daikokun dimension and shoots them out using his dojutsu when he shrinks them and resizes them to shoot out as projectiles. If you thought that Damon catching those chakra rods with his teeth was a slap in the face to Kawaki, this is another slap in the face to Kawaki. Not only does Kawaki appear to be catching Boruto off guard, so he should have the advantage when he uses the jutsu, but Boruto literally seems unfazed by the attempted sneak attack, and he doesn't just dodge, he just casually steps to the side without any appearance of shock or confusion on his face. Boruto seems unbothered. He is stepping aside to avoid the blindsided sneak attack as casually as Naruto would sit down and eat a bowl of ramen at the ramen shop after whooping Sasuke's ass at the Final Valley. The look on Kawaki's face says it all. He was not expecting Boruto to dodge that attack at all, and it is a sign that as Mitsuki was talking to Boruto, his concerns about Boruto fighting Kawaki, they were absolutely right. Mitsuki, after presumably training alongside Kawaki for the last 3 years, would be well aware of Kawaki's capability in terms of combat power, but because the best way to learn how to fight an Otsutsuki is to either enter into combat training with an Otsutsuki or fight Otsutsuki. So obviously the former was the only one that he had, which that is likely what Mitsuki did during those 3 years of training, and it only took Mitsuki seeing a glimpse of Boruto's full base power for Mitsuki to come to the determination that Boruto and just base alone was too much for Kawaki to be able to handle, and this official spoiler definitely backs that up. Otherwise, there's no reason for Kawaki to be drawn looking shocked as he does in the official completed page from the upcoming manga chapter. Kawaki looks like he just saw his ghost, or like that kid who told his parents that he wasn't taking a beating when they pulled out that belt and then all of a sudden realized the spanking he was about to get was gonna hurt a whole lot worse than it did before. Delta's reaction doesn't seem so much as shocked as Kawaki, but more so like she's questioning why she even woke this dude up in the first place. But that last panel is Boruto turning around to face Kawaki as they stand on top of one of the buildings in Konoha. Now, there's no context as to why Boruto versus Kawaki is happening right now, only that Boruto is now back inside of Konoha and Kawaki has decided to try and ambush him with the help of Delta, but based off what we're seeing, that plan, it isn't working, which somewhere Damon is likely laughing and Shikamaru is going, I told you so, because Shikamaru warned Kawaki that Boruto was both stronger than before and more skilled than before, and that Kawaki would need to wait to take him down, which we know he most likely said that due to the fact he's working with Boruto, but his words are still being proven true, and Kawaki needing to not challenge Boruto is a very obvious conclusion now. So there's a few things we can take away from this also. Given the ease at which Boruto dodged a blindsided sneak attack by Kawaki, we might need to start asking the question of how close is Boruto in base to Damon and whether or not Karma Seal Boruto is stronger than Damon. Both of them took out Code without any real issues, and I've also made the argument that Boruto did so with less effort than Damon, but to be fair, Boruto did use a Rasengan to do so, but he was also toying around with and reacting to at point blank range attacks by White Karma Seal Code prior to that. And it should be worth noting, a basic Rasengan packs more force in it than a normal punch because it applies change in chakra shape to a high volume of chakra, so the damage being done is considerably more than any punch that can be thrown. Gotta throw that out there because I read a few comments of people saying that they didn't understand why the Rasengan does as much damage as it does. Both Boruto and Damon were also shown not being phased by Kawaki, so we could potentially be in a one-tap scenario. Now, the next thing that we have here is that Boruto dodged set attacks a lot easier than Hidari did in the same situation. Both were blindsided by Kawaki, whereas Hidari had to jump out of the way, then jump back to put distance between them. Boruto literally just sidesteps and casually turns around to face Kawaki like he is the final boss, looking at someone who just barely has enough experience points. There's a level of cool indifference to Boruto's actions, like he doesn't care that Kawaki is about to attack him. There's a quiet confidence that he knows he can defeat both Delta and Kawaki in a fight, which that's going to be very interesting because we know that Amato did modify Delta's body when he came to Konoha, calling her a great asset to Konoha, and they at the time were preparing for Code with limiters. So that will be red-haired Code. So it's not crazy to say that this Delta scales above red-haired White Karma Seal Code, or potentially a little bit higher. However, how much higher than that we can't really say because it's not enough data yet, but the pieces, they are falling together in terms of where everyone stands on the pecking order. The biggest questions that still lie out there are Mangekyo Sharingan Sarada, Biju Chakra Himawari, Full Power Jura, Full Power Damon, and Full Power Karma Seal Boruto. Now, the biggest thing we can take away from this is the fact that Boruto is back in Konoha once again. Now, you guys have heard me say before, I'm not a big fan of Boruto popping in and up out of the village at random because I think it's better to let the story breathe a little bit outside of Boruto. With Shocker, there are shonen, including monthly shonen, that will take the scope off the main character for a little bit of time to push the story ahead from another perspective before shifting back to the main lead. I'm not going to complain about it because at the end of the day, the smaller sub arcs with those other characters will eventually get concluded, just not in a manner where they're being given layers right now. Again, this is manga, so you have to be patient with it. This isn't like anime where we can just binge through everything. However, because we don't have any context onto why Boruto is back in Konoha, we can only really speculate onto why he's here, and the only thing that makes the most sense as to why he's back in Konoha is that something happened to Himawari, because as we said numerous times here on the channel, as the 48 Laws of Power tells us, every man has a thumbscrew that is their weakness, and for Boruto, his thumbscrew is Himawari. Now, it would be a bit cold of Kawaki to not care if anything happened to Himawari, if like Jura just plucks her up out the village and Kawaki's like, nope, gonna go kill Boruto. But here's the thing, manga Kawaki, he doesn't have the same connection to Himawari the anime version Kawaki had. He's more so come off like he's tolerated her because he knows that she's Naruto's daughter. Not that he truly liked or cared for. The same thing with Hinata. He tolerated her because she was Naruto's wife. While we have seen he feels some level of guilt when she calls him big brother, that might be arguably more so because of the fact that he stole Boruto's life. The one thing that we've seen with Kawaki is that when it comes to Boruto, that boner this guy has for Boruto, it draws him to a point where he completely throws logic out the window, especially when he considers Boruto to be a threat to Naruto. There is no logic at this point, only Kawaki acting on his impulses and his instincts. Now, what's interesting here is that we don't know how Boruto knew to come back to Konoha, which does make you wonder if something we brought up here on the channel before is indeed true, which is that either Boruto has toads left behind in the village, which is how he knew to come back so suddenly after leaving the village, or Kashi Koji has toads in the village, but Boruto returning, it is something to take note of. Now, one of my patrons in the Discord server did bring up a good point, which is Boruto might have potentially seen a glimpse of the future and knew to return in this moment because that was a Shinjutsu ability he tapped into towards the end of part 1, but it's limited. It's only snapshots and it's not the full picture. And I want to bring up something that they didn't in the message they sent me on Discord. I kind of look at this and say it could work just because when you go back to, I believe it was chapter 6 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, when Boruto's flying away he tells Sarda and class rep that he'll return to Konoha soon, so he might very well have seen something. This could be a potential scenario where Boruto is tapping into that Shinjutsu ability but can't see everything that is occurring, but saw enough to know that he needed to get back to Konoha to prevent something from bigger happening, and it might have just been he bumped into Kawaki as a result, because again, he can't see the full future. I'm not expecting a full-blown fight between these two. I'll be pleasantly surprised if that happened, because Boruto's made it clear since returning to Konoha that fighting Kawaki is something that, while he expects, will be inevitable based off of his words to Mitsuki about having expected Kawaki to try and attack him, is not high up his priority list. The Shinju, they are out there in any battle between the two of them. Now it only makes it easier for one of the Shinju to consume them. Whoever it is that loses the fight is primed to be eaten whole by one of the Shinju, which is the last thing they want to happen, because it produces a chakra fruit. Based off of Boruto's demeanor, we're either going to be getting another Mitsuki situation where Boruto flexes on him by winning via restraint and via defensive tactics, or Boruto puts Kawaki to sleep the same way that Jura did. At some point, the two of them are going to have to do what Sarda said, which is team up together to take down the Shinju and call a temporary truce, because there is a threat that is bigger than any brotherly squabble that needs to be addressed. I've seen people say they think that this is the start of that fight, the one that we got teased with at the start of the franchise, but I don't think this is the case. The long-awaited Boruto versus Kawaki battle that continues after the village is destroyed, I don't think we're there yet. I don't even think we're close to it, especially considering that the Kawaki who fought Boruto appeared to have the upper hand on base Boruto at the time, which none of us even think is remotely possible right now from Kawaki. If he and Boruto were to mix it up right now, I think we're all expecting more of a one-sided beatdown like the one we just got in the new Chainsaw chapter with Kwanzi versus the War Devil. Once again, while Kawaki's stocks, they are down and they're plummeting. This is the official spoiler for the chapter, but not the full spoilers for the chapter, which officially releases on the 18th. So we'll have more context as to what happened before and after the scene within the next 3 to 5 days, when somebody gets their hands on the magazine early and they leak that information out. And once that happens, I'll definitely cover it, because I know a lot of you guys have questions, and the review will go up on the 18th or 19th depending on when the chapter itself leaks out. But in the meantime, click here to show my Chainsaw chapter review some love.